Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is Matthew Robert Payne and Tulu Johnson. This video is going to appear uh, on the playlist called Mentoring in the Heavenlies, which is a playlist on my YouTube channel. I've got a picture of different realms in heaven. It's like a heavenly sort of picture. When I've got these backgrounds, I fade in and out. My head goes funny and things go funny, but I thought I'd be in the mood for that. Today, my mother's living room, they have a Sunday dinner. They have Jesus, the Queen of England, the Apostle Peter, Michael Jackson, John Lennon, Benjamin Toulou's husband, and Benjamin's son, Emmanuel, and other people. And we're going to, rather than prepared questions, my mother and father, rather than prepared questions, we haven't got prepared questions now. We're just going to have like a conversation around the dinner table. And it's just going to be like me and Tulu are actually at the table asking all the guests questions, and the guests are answering. All the answers will come through me, but the questions will come from me and Tulu. Obviously, I don't know the answers to the questions I'm asking the people. That's what you do in conversation. You don't ask people a question when you already know the answer. Well, Christians do that all the time to trap you and run swords through you, and Pharisees do that. But not when you're having general conversation. You don't ask people questions that you already know the answer to. So we're going to start, and I've got a question from my father. So Dad, did you know that this question and answer time was eventually going to come? I've known this for years, son, that you're going to build the confidence up where you could freely bring answers from multiple saints at once. And isn't it good to be able to have a conversation with Tulu that you normally have these sort of private conversations where two or three saints speak, and it's all lost to your memory. It's not recorded because it's just over Facebook phone and there's no recording. So this will be good. It'll be a good recording for Tulu to listen to, and maybe you may even listen to this yourself too. I want to tell you that you did a tremendous job self-publishing your 121 books and paying for them to be on Amazon. It cost you between 150 and 200 1,000 Australian dollars. So you could have pretty much been paying off your own unit or apartment with that sort of money. So you really invested in the kingdom. You also invested a lot of your money into prostitutes over your lifetime, but you had a good win. Like 20 to 30,000 people have read your books, and I'm really proud of you for that. And I'm really proud of you spending all your time doing these interviews with saints and having the courage to stand out in the Christian circles and do something that truly only a pioneer and a forerunner would do. And you're not understood by 99% of Christians, but neither was Jesus. You know, remember when Jesus said, unless you drink my blood and eat of my flesh, you can have no part of me. And everyone left him on that day. He was only left with his disciples. Jesus spent 3 years in ministry and only had 120 followers at the end that were in the upper room. Our modern day evangelist would feel that he's a failure with only 120 converts in 3 years. So even Jesus wasn't understood and accepted by most people. And it just seems that 1% of the world population controls the wealth of the whole world, and it's really the 1%, the 2% opinion that's right, and the 98% that aren't right. So you're on the right track, and I'm very proud of you. So we knew, in answer to your question, we knew that you were going to have this conversation. Have you got any question for me, Tulu, based on what I just said to Matthew there?
No, you said so many things in there. This is a surprise for me. Matthew just told you we're going to have a conversation around the table. Thank you for the yesterday. Well, it might not be yesterday to you guys in heaven, but it was really great speaking to you yesterday. And I really loved what you said about June. That was really beautiful too. I just wanted to ask that, what do you think about these conversations when myself and Matthew are speaking? Do you listen to our conversations?
Heaven engages in everything that you and Matthew do. There's certain mothers in heaven that watch you with your children. The whole of heaven watches you and Matthew's conversations. Yeah, there was a show years ago that the famous actor Jim Carrey was in, where the whole town was watching him, and it was a reality show. It was before reality shows come to the world, and the whole show, he was the entertainment of the whole show. He was the entertainment on this movie, but everyone watched him on their TVs, and the whole town was set up as a reality show, and he was the only one that didn't know. And that's sort of like Matthew's life. Everyone, when they've got spare time, watches everything that Matthew does, and they watch the sin, and they watch the sin that he gets up to, and that sort of bolsters Matthew's determination to get free of it. Yeah, we watch and listen to all your conversations, so it's good to have them recorded.
Oh, that's interesting, because I am a very private and probably a shy person. So I wouldn't imagine that everyone is watching what I'm doing. But it's good. I can say that.
It's they're watching your conversations with Matthew, and a lot of the mothers watch your interactions with your children.
Oh, wow. It's good to know. What do you think having the Queen in your house?
Yeah, she comes around each Sunday. June, my wife, Matthew's mother, is second in charge of the Queen's projects in heaven, and so the Queen opens official buildings and does ceremonies like she did on Earth, and June, my wife, does the invitations and the openings that the Queen can't schedule. So she's second in charge, and the Queen's often around here discussing important matters. The Queen uses a study in our house as her own study, and she does most of the negotiations here at this house. So Matthew's quite an important person in heaven, and if you've been watching these videos, you'd know that. But if this is the first video you've watched, that might be too much for you to handle. But the Queen spends a lot of time, so it's really good to see her. It's good to see her laughing. A lot of people knew her as a funny person that liked to joke, and she really is funny. Prince William is a stoic individual, and he likes to we have cigars in heaven. You mightn't think that we have cigars, and he likes to smoke a cigar after dinner. And you wouldn't think that people would smoke in heaven, but a lot of heaven, a lot religious traditions of people's ideas of heaven are getting smashed with these interviews. But Prince Philip is a wonderful person too, and it's wonderful to have her here.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. I'm still coming back to the Queen, but I'm going to ask the next question to Emmanuel. Now, I just want you to know that I love you as my son. I've never had the opportunity to tell you that. But I wanted to ask, how do you feel having Daddy with you now?
Yeah, I'm very advanced in heaven at 15 years of age. I've been studying for years, and I've been instructed by good tutors and prophets and apostles, and I'm prepared to ministry, and I'm in ministry already, ministering to children, raising up leaders, and life has just been so much better with my father here, and my father understands me. I'm trained up to be a prophet myself, and we've got this really deep connection. We have conversations just in a glance, just in a look. Dad will say something, and I'll just nod my head, and it'll bring a tear to Dad's eyes because there's something very important to Dad, and he sees my nod and sees that I acknowledge what he's saying. Dad speaks at another level, and I want to get to that level, and so he doesn't hold back with me and shares a lot of revelations with me. And I know a lot, but I don't know as much as Dad.
I know. And how is it like watching over your sisters?
So I'm like one of the women that Bob was talking about, watching over the children, and sometimes I come to Earth and watch my sisters and watch them play, and they're not aware of it, but I really enjoy seeing them. There's this disconnection. Sadly, there's this disconnection because they can't sense I'm here, and they can't communicate with me. But that's how God feels, and that's how the saints feel, and it's how Jesus feels. That most of earth can't hear him speak, and he'd like to make a connection, but he can't. And it's not from lack of trying. He tries playing radio songs on the radio to wake you up, or there'll be a advertisement on a street sign, pure genius, and it'll be speaking to you saying you're a pure genius. And there's friends will tell you things, and strangers will tell you things, and God has so many different ways to communicate with people, but they just can't really pick up on it all.
Mm. So how can they pick up on what the saints and Jesus are saying?
So Matthew's got a book called 24 Ways of Hearing God's Voice, and that explains the 24 different ways there may be more than 24, but there's 24 different ways mentioned in that book.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I think I'm going to ask Benjamin the next question. So Benjamin, what is it like having Emmanuel with you?
So I really enjoy my boy. It's really good to be on the same level as someone. It's really good to be busy and engaged in heaven, and being busy doing things, writing music with Michael Jackson, performing music, recording music, sitting on the throne, making judgments for God, commanding angels. It's good to have Emmanuel watching and participating in everything. He can play keyboards, and sometimes he'll play keyboards on one of our tracks. And he's good to shoot the breeze with, like to relax and let your hair down and have a chat. But it's good that I don't have to hold down my prophetic language and water it down for him. He's one of the few people besides John Lennon that I can really talk to at my level because he's really advanced.
Thank you, Ben. Was he a pleasant surprise for you, seeing Emmanuel when you got to heaven?
Well, it was a real shock to see him and then meet him. And I've been here for 9 months, which Matthew worked out to be 19 heaven years. And so we've really grown to become really close over all those years. And it's there's more years that I've been with Emmanuel in heaven than years that we were married. So you can imagine we've got a good relationship now. It's not just in the first few weeks now. It's not just in the first few months. It's 19 years worth of relationship, and we've got a very deep bond.
Thank you, Ben. Emmanuel, so what advice have you got for mommy?
Just keep on listening to Matthew. Keep on taking. Matthew doesn't give advice very often, but from time to time he's spirit-led with his advice, and so take advice of him. Stick close to the Holy Spirit. Be directed each day by the Holy Spirit, but continue on with your journaling and you're talking back to saints and Jesus. It's important to check in with Dad and check in with Jesus every day, but you can maintain your relationship with other saints as you find time. The two-way conversations with the heavenlies is the most important thing for you. Of course, meditating scripture and understanding scripture is a good thing. Reading other books is good. Your conversations with Matthew in your spare time or every day is a really good thing. Don't be too concerned about producing content. When Matthew's in good spirits, he'll produce good content. And you've seen when he's really flat or really down and you've tried to produce content and it's not up to the standard that it could be. You've seen when he's high and he's happy, how good the content is. So you're doing everything right. Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you, son. Yeah, so my next question is for Queen. Queen, how do you feel being in heaven? I really love you, by the way. I've watched a lot of movies around the crown. So I love you from afar. So it's great for me to be able to talk to you today.
It's really good to be at work in service for Jesus. You know, all my life I was in service of the Commonwealth, and that was a great thing. But all the people in heaven from every faith, and many Christians would object to other faiths being in heaven, but these are the cream of the crop. It's like the very elite, you know, the elite, the top 1%, the bankers that control the world think they're the elite and they think they're the most powerful, and they run the money and they run the systems and they run the wars and they control things on earth. But the elite are the people who make it to heaven, and very few of those elite on earth will make it to heaven. They've chosen who their master is. But the heaven is full of the elite, the most beautiful people. You know, if you like Michael Jackson, or if you like Princess Diana, if you like Mother Teresa, to mention three pure-hearted people, heaven is full of thousands of people like that. It's just the cream of the crop. You know, the cream goes to the top and it's skimmed off the top, and homogenized milk is milk where the cream is mixed in milk and it's really creamy milk. But skim milk is when the cream is taken off and it's just the milk without the cream. And heaven is just full of the cream. So they're the very best people. I've been interacting all my life with people, with crowds of people, and I've heard a lot of thousands, tens of thousands of comments of people, but the comments in heaven are at another level. The people in heaven many people in heaven know a lot about my life and were real fans, and they stretch time in heaven with people who haven't listened to interviews. So you can spend an hour greeting people in heaven, but it's like 2 weeks of heaven time, but one hour of heaven time, like 1 hour stretches into 2 weeks of time. So it only takes me an hour to do it, but the time expands. It's like time slows down and there's 2 weeks worth of time, but just 1 hour worth of time. So I get to meet and greet and take selfies and answer questions for thousands of people each day. And that's my favorite part of my job. So I really enjoyed it. Matthew is really popular in heaven, and his mother is really popular because she brought him up, and she's second in charge to me. So when she goes out to a function, people know she's in charge, and they line up to talk to her, and she's very gracious, and she's like a replacement. One day I'm going to move on and do something else, and she's going to take over. So it's only natural that my protege is in heaven, and Diana's back doing royal duties too, and she's being the people's princess, and the people dearly love her. But I'm really revered. I really want to become a handmaiden for the Lord Jesus. I really want, like Mary Magdalene's position, like Mary Magdalene had my position, and then she went on to do work to prepare the bride of Christ for Jesus. And I want to do a similar position. I want to become as intimate with Jesus as Mary Magdalene is, and she's the most intimate in heaven. And so I'm putting all my energies into getting to know Jesus. And I want to tell you that the songs that the boys are producing about knowing the heart of Jesus, and I as the Queen knew the suffering of the world and the suffering of the Commonwealth, and I was part of the elite, so I was more akin to knowing what suffering's happening and the troubles in the world. And so I was very aware of many of the things that Jesus suffers with. And I was also in a position where I couldn't fix it. So it was heartbreaking for me. And so the songs the boys are singing and the discussion we have around the table each week with the songs they're releasing, it's taken me to a new level of intimacy. I sort of neglected my spiritual side. I was so busy, and the longer I'm here in heaven, the more things accelerate. And so I'm ready to transition soon out of this position, and I've done enough public service. So I just want to be like a virgin for Jesus. I just want to be one of his wise virgins. And I'm not sure if he had a second coming of the foolish and wise virgins. I'm not sure if I would have been one of the wise virgins. And so I'm taking this time to grow close to him. And it's really good to have him at the table each week and ask him questions. And June places people next to each other each week, and when we get there, there's name tags on the places, and it's always good to be seated next to anyone at this table because they're all fascinating people. But it's especially nice to be seated next to Jesus and to be able to eat a meal and have conversations with the Master.
Thank you, Queen. And what does Prince Philip think about this?
Prince Philip is in his head too much. He's a deeply theological person, so he enjoys discussions with John Lennon. He enjoys discussions with your husband Benjamin. He enjoys heaven. He has private friends that are intellectuals and theologians and former priests and bishops and cardinals, and he likes to meet with someone who's got letters after their name. They're not only intimate with Jesus, but they've got letters after the name, and they've done a study, and they're his class, like cigar smoking experts. And he comes down to this table once a week to talk to the lower class people, but he'd never talk about Jesus like that. But Jesus hasn't got letters after his name, so he doesn't get the same attention from Philip than the other guys with letters after names. Of course, the whole table is laughing and they think I'm being so funny, and that's an example of my humor. But Philip's really enjoying himself.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what was it like meeting Princess Diana again?
There was a lot of healing that had to be done over her. She was very aware of the time gap between when she was killed and I came out in the palace to recognize her death, and she was aware of that, and she had unforgiveness in her heart towards my attitude, and there was the friction that we had while she was alive that we had to overcome. But things are fine now, and she's like a daughter-in-law, and Charles is involved with the wrong sort of people, but you can't be in power without being involved. Matthew did a video of all the Illuminati signs, and Trump has done all of them, like ones like this. Like that's a really important Illuminati sign, and that's an important Illuminati sign. And those three fingers like that is important. Trump's got pictures like that. He's got secret putting his hand underneath his suit jacket. All the Illuminati Masonic signs, Trump has thrown them up. And it's like if you followed the Illuminati and the secret symbols, you'd say Trump is the most, the one that's done most of the signs. So I'm saying that to say that it's hard to have a lot of money in this world without being controlled by the people who've got all the money. So Matthew's like genuinely watching Elon Musk and seeing if he ever sees Elon Musk do any of those signs. There's natural things like doing this, Trump sitting at with the president doing this, that's an Illuminati sign. But that's a natural thing. And so many people say AOK, and there's so many people that throw up that sign that aren't doing that to impress the Illuminati. But Trump does that quite a lot. It could be just a habit of him when he sits down. So there's people who control the world, but the very elite on the earth, not many of them make it to heaven, and not many of them are interested in coming to heaven. They want to be rulers in Satan's kingdom.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Thank you so much, Queen. I watched The Crown yesterday as well, so I understand where Diana is coming from. But at the same time, I understand you're trying to be a great grandmother and at the same time serving the people. So balancing act can be quite difficult sometimes. So thank you so much for speaking to me. I wanted to ask Princess Diana, do you ever imagine this will happen in heaven where you'll be at the same table with the Queen and Prince Philip having dinner together?
It's do you know, I said it in Princess Diana Speaks from Heaven, Book 1. I said when you look into Jesus' eyes, you just see creation, you just see creation being formed, you see the galaxies, you see yourself in his eyes, you just see this uncontrollable love. And the thing that heaven runs on is just compassion and love and grace. And Yeah, Matthew's favorite, one of Matthew's favorite verses is, and he can do exceedingly abundantly more than we can ask or think. And I'd never, the friction becomes so much between me and my mother-in-law that I never thought it could be healed. Like, if someone treats you bad and you get rejected and misunderstood, you dig your heels in and you say, well, that's never going to be forgiven. You hear people say, um, I'll forgive them, but I'll never forget. And I thought irreparable damage had been done. And it's just a testimony to the grace of Jesus, just how wonderful my Savior Jesus is to work on people's hearts. And uh, the heart that got worked on the most was my mother's heart and the Queen's heart. And Jesus allowed the time, didn't try and force anything. And by eating at the same dinner table every week, we came together. And so ever since I've been in heaven, I've been sitting at this dinner table. But ever since Matthew's parents came to heaven, but when the Queen came, she started sitting at this table, and we're together each week. And we've become like a mother-in-law should be. It's like she's the Queen and I'm the princess, and heaven knows it.
Thank you, Princess Diana. How do you cope seeing your children's life on earth? How do you cope in heaven?
So Harry's a bit of a maverick. If you've seen the movie Top Gun, Tom Cruise was called Maverick. He had his own way of doing things, and he's a bit of a rebel. Harry's a bit of a rebel, but William's making all the steps right to go into the crown. It's just a stoic affair. It's just seems so boring for me to watch him possibly spend 10 or 20 years before he can ascend to the throne. I wish it would be over already. I wish Charles was finished and William could ascend to the throne and then get exciting. But I just hope Charles has got a form of cancer, and there's hope that he may disappear. I wouldn't have had a long reign as a queen if Charles had disappeared. But I sort of forgive Charles. He doesn't know himself, man, and he's lust. Lust controls so many men, and he had his affair, and he had his wife now, and so I'm proud of William. William's doing everything right, and so is Harry's doing everything right according to what he believes and what his Jezebel wife wants to do too. So I was very impressed with Meghan until she started manifesting her narcissistic sort of tendencies. But anyone can be turned around, and she's obviously been damaged in some way in her life, in some way, for her to receive the spirit of Jezebel, but she can be delivered from that and turned around from that. She's not as evil as people make her out, and she's just doing the best she can. So I love her in her own little rebellious ways. And a lot of people don't forgive her for accusing the Queen and Prince William of being racist about the colour of the baby and the Oprah interview. It's just a natural thing. People wondering what the baby will look like, and they weren't necessarily being racist, but it was termed as that with the interview, and it was a whole huddle about it. I think Megan certainly meant it to be an accusation, and that was a shame. But the Queen wasn't so offended, and the royal family weren't offended. The royal family are there to serve the public, not for the public to serve them. And the Queen always remembered that, and I really respected the way my mother handled that accusation. And all the children are going to grow up as princes and princesses, and it's going to be a happy ending. We just pray. Matthew wrote Prince William a letter from me one time, and he's told that they get all their mail, and he never received a reply. But there's a letter. I came down from heaven. It's the first time I met Matthew. I came down from heaven. To a second time I met Matthew, and asked him to dictate a letter, and he typed a letter and sent it to Prince William. So Matthew sent him a letter. I'm really it's hard to compare my sons. I'm really proud of William and Kate. Kate just dresses so beautifully all the time. She's such a lady. She's such a good mother. I really love William and Kate. But I love that maverick spirit in Harry that won't conform and wants to be his own man and forge out his own life. So Harry's got more of my spirit. I went off the rails and left the royal family, not just after divorcing Charles. I'm sure the royal family would have allowed me to continue doing things closer to the crown, even if I was divorced. But I went off the rails like Harry, and Harry sort of followed my behaviour. William stuck with it, and William's more of a Prince Charles, sticking with the family business and doing what's best for the people. And it may be 10 or 20 years before he ascends to the throne, but it'll be a good king, and I'll be proud on that day.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to ask Prince Philip. Actually, Diana, what was it like having Prince Philip as your father-in-law?
He was a beautiful father-in-law. He was he accepted me with open arms, and he really embraced me and gave me some good tidbits of advice and tips with dealing with people and dealing with the public. And he warned me about the media a few times, and he was just. He wasn't the drill sergeant. He wasn't the one sending you out into war, but he's more like a bodyguard that come alongside and say, don't walk so close to the pavement. Watch your step here, do that. Like someone who's not in charge of you, but someone there to lend you a hand and say, don't wear that jacket in public. Just little like tips that like a bodyguard might do. And he was always there and always offering me advice from his years of experience.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to speak to Prince Philip next. Prince Philip, I watched a lot of your stories over the years, and you always look as like someone that is very tough to me. Why were you so tough and stern?
This is the way I was brought up from my father, and my family were people of order and tradition and stoic. Matthew doesn't even know what the word stoic means, but it fits as one of the words I'd use here. We're very English and not really showing our feelings and being gruff and responding to orders more than love. And I wasn't too loving in all my relationships with my children, and but I was a man of order and man of rules, and a man of tradition, and I kept our family going despite the fact that I mightn't be seen with a laugh or a smile that often. I did have genuine love in my heart, a respect for my children, a respect for the monarchy.
Thank you. And how has heaven been to you?
How's what?
Heaven, your experience of heaven.
I'm just so pleased. My wife is so busy, and she's been willingly embraced. It's really good to hear her speak today, talking about how she wants to pursue intimacy with Jesus. She honestly is, and how she wants to follow on. When she got to heaven, she took a week off, or one Earth Day off, 3 weeks in heaven off, and then she assumed the responsibility of Mary Magdalene. She asked Mary Magdalene, "Where are you going? What are you going to do now?" Mary Magdalene said, "I'm going to prepare Earth, people of Earth, to come home and meet Jesus in the air." And that was just an initial statement to the Queen. She didn't think there's anything better than being Queen. He certainly was surprised to be promoted to Queen of Heaven. But then it set up, she heard Mary speak, and Mary said there was no one closer to Jesus. And my wife is very competitive and a woman of excellence. And she was intrigued that there was something greater, that Mary Magdalene could go to something greater. So she had her eyes on Mary Magdalene's next job. And that's what her eyes are firmly for. So she's training up June and investing her time in June and micromanaging June. She's not much of a micromanager, but she's micromanaging June and giving June tougher and tougher assignments, because she just wants to move on and go and follow Mary. And so she'll be talking more and having more to do with the interviews, because your interviews is part of the preparation of heaven to mentor the bride of Christ on earth. So it's all part of the great plan. So I'm really proud of her. I really love her. And I'm just a guy who doesn't really do much in heaven. I read a lot. I write some. I write papers. I hang with the educated, and that's just who I am. I'm just boring to many people, but my wife loves me.
You move with the educated. What does that mean?
I mean all the people with masters and PhDs and all the people with letters after their name.
Does that really matter in heaven? Master's, PhD.
It matters to me.
So I need to go and do my PhD before I come to heaven.
No, I'm just saying they're the sort of people I really admire who've put a lot of study in. You can get a master's and a PhD in heaven, and
You have a master's, so maybe I could get PhD in heaven then.
yeah, that's
Thank
just
you.
me. I'm impressed with people with tremendous intimacy with Jesus, but I like study to back up what people say. I like a book with a whole lot of references. Matthew doesn't know what they're called, but where it quotes like 50 books for every chapter.
Thank you, Philip. So
Appendix is it appendix?
No, it's a reference. Yes, it's called reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it at the end of
I
where.
like to read a book made up of 50 other people's opinions.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. Yeah, I wanted to ask, you are currently a friend to Ben. What can you say Ben is to you?
Ben's like the theologian that was self-taught. So Ben Ben can say principles and things he knows of God and things he knows of Jesus, things he knows of creation, things he knows of the gospel. And all the things he says can be backed up in books I've read. But Ben didn't learn it from the books. Ben learned it direct off God. So it's fascinating to talk to him because even though he's profound and hard to understand, I can capture it because I'm really well read in some of these disciplines. And I spent a lot of time reading, and I had a fascination with God and his kingdom. And I couldn't publicly come out and say that. The elite don't like you talking about God and your passion and your intimacy with God. It's not popular. But I had a fraternity of priests that I used to meet with and get good recommendations. Well read. Ben knows his theology, just has tremendous spiritual insight, and he's just every time I sit down with him, he's just fascinating to speak to, and having him show me the individual lyrics that he writes in the songs that the boys are winning the awards with. I can see why one line of the lyric is so important and so powerful, and how theologically sound his lyrics are. I really admire him. He's become a great friend of mine.
Oh, thank you, Prince Philip. My next question is for Michael. Matthew, do you have any question before I go to Michael?
No, you're doing it well. I just want to say to Queen of England, I just want to say it really fills me with great happiness that to find out it's all new to me, but heaven moves so fast, but that you're giving my mother harder and harder jobs. She really liked catering, and when we were young, she did catering for the Baptist caterers, and they volunteered their time, and the government officials used to come to our town and have meetings, and they'd get the Baptist caterers to do the meeting, and the professional restaurants in town didn't get the catering orders. My mum's ragtag group of volunteers got the thing, and the professionals said it was professional meals, but home-cooked meals, and they're used to restaurant quality meals, and they just like home-cooked meals. And my mother used to do home-cooked meals on a big scale, and she always wanted to be a caterer. And so her being in charge of functions in heaven and making the official announcements and organizing everything is just exactly what she'd like to do. And I'm so pleased that it sort of overwhelms me that my mother sort of has the most important people in heaven in the house on a Sunday night, but makes me amazed that in a few months my mother may be doing all the official functions of heaven, and you will have moved on. And I think that once again is exceedingly abundantly more than my mother could ask or think. And you know, God's grace is like throwing your hands in the air and saying, "What did I do?" Like that's the sort of thing that makes you humble. Like my mother could never credit herself with being one of the most important people in heaven, and she freely say that she doesn't deserve it, but that's a testimony to the grace of God and the wisdom of God. And so I find it really interesting that the women do all the work and the men go fishing and play golf. I think it's fascinating that my mother's going to be running heaven and my dad's going to be fishing and playing golf. And the Queen's running heaven, and Prince Philip is just reading books and stuff. And so I want to thank you, Queen Elizabeth, for being in my mother's life and mentoring her. I want to personally thank you for restoring the relationship with Diana. I want to thank you for all your years of service. While I was in Australia, I didn't really know you that well, but I respected you. So Queen Elizabeth says, Matthew, you speak to me with such honor and pride and respect, and yet from time to time I'm in the throne room and you're on the throne, and it's the other way around. Honestly, it's the other way around, that you speak up to me, like you're humbled to meet me. And honestly, I serve at your pleasure, and you'll understand it one day when you've had enough feedback and you get to heaven and enough people worship you and bow down to you and give you feedback on how you changed your life. But I've read all your books since I've been up here. I've read some of your books 5 times. They're so rich. It's so hard to comprehend that you knew so much. And though you're not recognized on earth, you're going to get really used to coming to heaven and having conversations with us, because you're going to start to live in heaven, and heaven wanted you to live in heaven for years, and you refused to do it. And now each of the conversations you end up in heaven. And I want to share with you that although I really admire your respect and your honoring me, the same amount of respect and honor come from me to you. And we're all fighting, we're all striving for the highest throne. And Mary sits on the second highest throne, and you sit on the third highest throne, and Bethany sits on the fourth highest throne. And there's competition for, like, the Benjamin sits on one and his angel sits on one. I'm not sure if they're in line, but I want to sit on one of those thrones. I want to be the queen of heaven too, not just opening buildings. I want to be queen. And so I'm pursuing Mary, and Mary's pursuing Christ, and we're all pursuing each other, and in this long line of pursuing each other, and everyone can get on to Jesus' throne. Jesus said overcomers can come and sit down on his throne, just as he overcome and sat on his Father's throne. And who knows, one of us may actually sit on his Father's throne. Maybe his Father will fully retire. Jesus will sit on his Father's throne, and someone sit on the right hand of him. I don't know who would take Jesus' spot. So it's all a mystery to us, and your conversations with saints are just unlocking more and more mysteries. But it's just a privilege to speak to you. And Diana, I want to say that I really love you. I remember in Princess Diana Speaks from Heaven, Book 1, you explained what Jesus was to you and how you were constantly searching for the love of your life, and you found that in Jesus and in Jesus' eyes. And that was a really good description in that book. And when you said that, I actually saw Jesus' eyes for one of the first times I've seen his eyes, and it was described so much. And I was so happy that you're a fashion designer, and so happy that you started teaching children, and so happy that you had a mentor and Mary Magdalene. Happy that you're friends with Michael. Happy that you're back serving the Queen. And I'm happy that you're happy. And I don't know you too well, but you really make me happy. It's you're such a maverick, like your son Harry, and I'm a bit of a royal watcher, and I really like Harry and Meghan, and I'm sorry I said Meghan had a Jezebel spirit. She just seems like she has, and I really love you, and it's not. You're a beautiful woman, and so is Mary Magdalene, and it's not your beauty that I admired in you. I loved your fashion sense. You're sort of like Kate in your fashion sense. But you sold a lot of magazines, and the world really loved you, and the world has really missed you. And I wish that I had time in my spirit to talk to people more often and spend time talking to you. But I hope that you know that I love you and I admire you. So Diana says, like my mother was saying, we see you on the throne, Matthew, and we admire you. And like my mother said, I've read all your books, and I think I've read each of your books except your 4 writing books about 5 times each. And your latest writing book, I've read 2 or 3 times, and I'm in the process of writing my first book because of that. But heaven understands a lot of your writing appeals to earth, but if Tolu has a way, you'll rewrite all of your books with a heaven perspective. And we know that Tolu's mind never switches off. And she's always thinking of more projects. And if you live for 15 years, you're never going to end of having projects every night. And so I really admire you, Tolu. I look into your life, and what you've been doing with these interviews has been transforming heaven. And you see doing these interviews as giving you a will to live and giving you a reason for living. But honestly, without you, Matthew's life would be pretty shattered, because he wouldn't be producing books, and he can't be producing books because he can't edit anymore, and the finances aren't there for him to be producing books. And so you've given him a reason to live, and I really honor you for that, for doing that, and you make me really proud. And I'm glad you've been watching The Crown, and you've got the Holy Spirit to tell you what's the truth and what isn't the truth. And I think they did a good job with the series of The Crown, and it was pretty close to the truth. And I think the managing directors of Netflix will get an award in heaven for that series, The Crown. And my mother is really proud of you. She answered your questions, but she didn't tell you personally how proud she is of you. And part of her mentoring to become like Mary is she's pressing all the responses on the iPads and doing all the research. And she's the most willing student that's learning from your interviews. And so I just want to share with you, she didn't share this with you herself, but you're tutoring the Queen of Heaven on how to get intimate with Jesus, and she's learning so much from you and Matthew, and your questions are really lighting up heaven. So there we go. Matthew's going to have a break, and we'll be back in a sec. Yeah, I'm back.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for all what you said. I really appreciate it. And I give the honor always back to God. I never expected I would have the opportunity to have this platform to even interview Saints in Heaven, because I'm just a shy, simple girl that's nobody, that just wanted to serve God and please God in whatever little way I can. So I'm really grateful, and I'm grateful that people are actually learning from me, because I do always give myself a lot of tough time, like telling myself you could be better, you'll have done well. That interview wasn't great enough. So I'm really grateful to God that people have been blessed through the interview. And Diana, actually, no, let me ask Michael this. Michael, do you think I'm tough on Matthew?
You don't even have to ask the question. You don't even have to ask the question. You already know the answer to your question. You're like a Pharisee asking questions that you already know the answer to. Come on,
Not a tough
ask
selection.
a serious question.
No,
You
the
just
question.
you just want justification off me to say that you're not too tough on Matthew.
Yes, I am not too tough, isn't it? It's the opposite.
We've already heard from June to say that Matthew needs someone tough on him. He's already had 15 years of Bethany giving him hard directions. He's used to tough directions.
Okay, so it doesn't.
But like Ben says, he works when he wants to work.
Who works when he wants to work? Matthew.
What's that?
Is that what Ben said? That Matthew works whenever he wants to work?
No, don't push Matthew too hard because he may back
Oh,
down.
okay. Okay. Well, if I don't push Matthew, we won't get anything done, Michael. So I could only reduce my pushing, maybe like step it a little bit lower, but there still needs to be some pushing to get something done.
Diana
Because
wanted to say in response to you're just a shy, simple woman that just wants to serve God. That's exactly who I was. I was just a shy, simple girl that wanted to serve my country.
thank you.
And I'm doing a lot more in heaven now. And my mother-in-law has inspired me to run after Mary now.
So Mary, how do you feel? You seem to have so many people competing for your spot now.
Yeah, well, I have to encourage people somehow, the jealousy didn't work, but having them competing the person who's really pushing hard and coming like in second place to me is Ben arrived at my level. Like Ben arrived at my level, but person who's pushing hard after me is John Lennon. Yeah. And I don't want to name the 5 or 10 that the highest, but they're all going to sit on my throne or Jesus' throne. And Jesus would like a different person to lead on his throne every day of the year. Yeah.
Um,
And that's what co-reign with Christ actually means.
mm, that's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
So
That's
maybe Mary,
that's a
you have to.
that's a revelation, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm thinking, Mary, maybe you have to willingly surrender because these people are not going to give up. Are you willing to do that?
Well, I can mentor people into positions, you know. Uh,
It's tough.
I don't know where I'd go instead of sitting at the left hand of the Father. I don't know if I'd give up my throne for someone else to sit there. Where would I go then? Would I be in the Father's spot or Jesus' spot?
No, we could create another role. You could be the first person, then somebody else could be the second to Mary. But in a way, they think they are the first, but you know you're still the first.
Yeah, well, there's more revelation to come, but I'm glad a lot of people are competing now. They thought it was impossible, but John's captured hold of it, you know, and he's got quite a few promotions every time he gets a song into the throne room. Yeah.
John, are you excited to hear that?
Yeah, I'm excited. Mary thinks I'm going to reach her spot one day.
But you need to know that women always lead.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Mary,
one day Yoko will be up here and she'll be my queen.
oh, that's beautiful. You've been waiting for so long time.
Yeah. She's getting
Oh,
pretty
wow.
old now.
She's getting a bit old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So how do you feel being on the dinner table with all of these special people around you?
They're just humble people. They
Mm.
they they um they make you feel welcome, you know. I thought I was a pretty good musician, but I've watched Michael's performances on Earth, and there's no way I seem to think I was even in his class, and he still sells the most records on Earth, even though he's been in heaven all these years. Um, and then he approached me after you interviewed me, and you had the questions to bring out my answers, and then Michael approached me, and my whole life has changed exceedingly abundantly more than I can ask or think. Ephesians 3:20 just gets fulfilled every week in heaven. Yeah. I don't know if people really achieve it on earth, but in heaven that's always happening. And
Mm.
yeah.
Exceedingly abundantly more than you think. I, I think I would say my life is like that now because I never imagined to be here after Ben passed away. I thought my life is finished. So this is an hidden surprise, something I wasn't expecting to ever happen.
Yeah, I know that June would have never expected to be the Queen of Heaven, and she's she's hearing the Queen talk and hearing the Queen talk about organizing heaven, and she's hearing the Queen talk tonight and thinking, I might press in to get close to Jesus. I might sit on one of those crowns myself. Just have my son up there running things. I might get up there and run things myself.
Well, that's interesting. Well,
You
I
know,
think,
the world needs a leader, don't they?
yes, they do.
They need someone to set an example. Things are taking off for the thrones. Like Ben sat on a throne. It's the first time someone other than Jesus has sat on Jesus' throne. Since Ben sat on that throne, everyone wants to sit on that throne.
So, well,
It's got so many people pursuing Mary now.
wow, 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 wow. Well, we still have a long way to go, myself and Matthew. We can't compete with you guys yet, but we will definitely join the competition, especially me. I think Matthew will automatically go into the throne. So that would be a good one to compete for as well. I'm going to ask Jesus this question. How do you feel having so many great people around you?
Oh, it's a relief that people finally understand me a little bit. I've been pretty depressed for a while. Yeah, you shouldn't have to be a prophet to understand Jesus. Shouldn't have to be a prophet to understand me, and it's just so hard to carry the burdens of the world with no friends to talk to.
So is it getting better now, being able to share that burden?
I'm having some good lunches with some people, and dinners with some people who are finally coming to grips with what I go through, and yeah.
I just wonder.
I sort of don't want to be the focus of this conversation because so many people think they know me, and they'd prove they know me if they listen to the whole mentoring in the Heavenlies series and invested 100 hours into listening to these videos. I think so many people think they hear me and they chase profits and they chase religion and they chase YouTube videos to hear me speak. And yet I can speak to any individual if they've just got the time and the patience to discipline themselves to speak. And I've got 50 commandments in the Bible and 54 parables. Someone would do themselves well learning what those parables mean and obeying those commandments. And I've done all the speaking that I really need to do. I hung on the cross and I said, it is finished. And I did everything. I taught everything. People just disobey what I taught. And the Christian church has just become so selfish that it became just really dark for me. It became really depressing for many years. I honestly don't need to go back on my throne. I could do with people ruling in my throne for years and just give me a holiday and some time off.
Oh, Jesus, you deserve it. I agree. You need so many holidays. Matthew, have you got any question before I continue?
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I wanted to ask Apostle Peter, what's it like fishing with Bob?
Oh, it's a joy, I drew to be a prophet, not just an apostle, and I was apostolic prophet, and I've been mentoring Bob in the prophetic, and since you've been doing interviews, Bob's been answering people's questions and following up people as a prophet, and there's so much downtime in between bites and in between fish, and we have a good conversation. Bob's a great conversationalist, and he's really grown over the years in his knowledge of the Word of God. And we've written a parables book together, or continue to be writing a parables book together. And he writes the meaning of the parable, and then I write a commentary on what he wrote and add more. And so it's a really extensive book. It's a better book than you and Tulu are doing with Jesus. I just thought I'd add that to tell you that it's a better book. Sometimes you catch Matthew on tired days and it's not really up to standard.
Well, you could tell me the ones that are not up to standard, then we can do the video again.
Yeah, Matthew's not gonna report himself. But we have good times together. We catch some great fish, and mum, everyone calls June mum. It's like an English tradition, isn't it? Calling the mother of the house, Mum. But everyone calls June Mum, and Mum says she's overfished, so she's hasn't been healed of fish. So I had to take fish home to my family and my friends, but Bob never takes fish home himself because it's not welcome in his home, you know. But he loves the fish, and there's plenty of people can meet our boat, and Bob can give them fish, but he doesn't take home fish to June. June just hates the smell of fish. Yeah.
So what do you like about these dinners you guys do every Sunday? What is so special about it?
Just what whatever's going on in the church, and whatever's going on in the world, and whatever's going on in our people's lives. And it's so good to see Jesus open up and laugh, and it's so good to see the changes come on him as John and Michael and Ben have sang songs about fellowshipping in the suffering of Jesus. It's good for Jesus to start to have people come forward and be his friend. It's good to see Mary being acknowledged for who she is, and for people to be wanting to have her intimacy. Nancy Cohen, famous earthly mystic, said that only 10% of people want to pursue intimacy with Jesus. And a friend of Matthew's told him that it makes sense that only 90% are on realm 1, because only 10% want to go further with Jesus. And that's changed in heaven because of your interviews. And we'll continue working on that. So it's good to see Jesus lighten up. He just, do you know, he'd really like to say some wonderful things, and you have interviewed him and he said some nice things, but he's just over talking. He's done enough talking. There's been enough prophetic words released in the world, and people just aren't obeying them. They all want revival and awakening and gifts and signs and wonders and power and money and control. They don't really want to save the world, because they introduce themselves to a homeless man and sit down and save him. But they're not interested in getting their hands dirty. And so we talk about all sorts of things. Mostly the last 3 months, we've been talking about the hits of Michael and John and your husband, and how good that music's going, and how heaven is transforming. And we talk about these interviews and what transformation is happening in heaven, and talk about the revival in heaven. And they're looking for a revival on earth. But honestly, Matthew has formed this opinion that the people on earth only want revival because they want God to do what they should be doing. And they want it for selfish reasons, because they know that there's going to be a big outpouring before the second coming, and they want to get that over and done with so they can go home in the second coming. So it's really selfish. It's not because they actually want to save souls. If they don't want to save souls, they can talk to that Muslim in the workplace and witness to them or do personal evangelism. But they're not interested in that. They just want them to come to a conference or a stadium and get saved. And so when you understand and you have wisdom of these things, it's depressing. It's not exciting.
Thank you, Apostle Peter. I think I'm done, Matthew, unless you've got any question.
So I just want to ask you, John Lennon, how do you feel about having a breakout in your music? before Michael Jackson worked with you, the first song that Michael did with you was your second most downloaded song in 40 years. And since then, the songs have been getting more popular and more popular. The last song was 5 times your highest downloaded song. It was downloaded 5 times as much. How are you feeling making such a transformation on Heaven? Well, it's got me promoted in intimacy. Jesus has opened up his mind to me, and that's something that only like Heaven's elite have. And you heard Abel, and I heard Abel being interviewed saying that he hears all the prayers has millions of conversations at once, and I'm able to access that, open and close that. And it really is scary, and it's a lot to think, but it gives me a lot of research for lyrics in the songs. And Ben's Angel is really helpful and in writing lyrics. And I'm really overjoyed. Once again, exceedingly and abundantly more than we could ask or think has happened to me. And you could get all these well, you don't know how to do it, but it'd be really good if you got all these interviews transcribed and looked up those words exceedingly abundantly and bring out all the conversations with all of them. You don't have to write that down, Tolu. That would be
I'm
too
writing it down.
But that's like a verse that just prominently comes up. So happy. So happy that Mary has come alongside of me and is taking me and mentoring me and giving me classes. And I'm happy with my relationship with Jesus has improved, and he's just so happy that he's got so many friends coming. He's been lonely all these years, and I've been close to him, but he's so happy I've brought a whole lot of friends with me. And I'm so happy Heaven is changing, and happy to see Jesus smiling. And I'm just a servant. I'm just like you, Tolu. I'm just a simple boy from a poor suburb in England who wanted to use music to make a change in the world. And I'm just a simple boy, and I discovered Jesus, and I worked for 40 years trying to bring people into an intimate relationship with Jesus through my music. And then like an expert come along and help me with my music. And now I'm doing things that are outstanding. And now there's other subjects I want to focus on, and Michael and Benjamin will help me, and Delight. And I think Delight could just write all the songs and we could just be the musicians singing the songs. But she only writes a certain amount. She doesn't write the whole song, so she leaves some of it up for us to do. It's really fun in Heaven, but it's so much more fun when your purpose is really being activated. And so I can understand you really enjoying doing these interviews. And as for you're certain listener that gets bored with these interviews that aren't official saints, or just don't worry about those sort of comments, because interviews like this are just really easy for Matthew. And there's a lot of this interview that he'd like to review. And he honestly, Matthew, these interviews has just made his father so proud. And both fathers, I mentioned I used to mention Matthew to Jesus over many years, and Jesus' eyes would just fill with tears and take a while for him to speak. And now I mention Matthew to his earthly father, and his earthly father's eyes fill up with tears. And I sang a song about Matthew that I wrote last week. And I was in the throne room because Michael and Benjamin helped me with it. And when I sang about Matthew, I saw the father's eyes fill up with tears, and tears run down his eyes. And, you know, Mary, Matthew's friend, actually said that she kind of feels that he's never going to get over his addiction until he's in heaven. And Matthew sort of was at peace with that, that could possibly happen. And wouldn't it be amazing to have someone ascend to the throne as a sinner, that one who sin much loves much? So I've seen three fathers cry. I've seen Jesus cry. I've seen God the Father cry, and I've seen Matthew's father cry. And when I sang that song, because it was the first song that we got #1 in heaven, when I sang that song about Matthew, the whole throne room was crying. And it was a song about the sufferings of Jesus, but it was through Matthew's life, telling like a ballad of Matthew's life. And there wasn't a dry eye because it's someone that they love. And yeah, there was another time I saw Jesus on the floor worshiping the Father, singing the song. And normally the ballad has normally the song in the throne room has Jesus doing a duet, but Jesus was in tears. So I had to carry the song without crying myself. And so Matthew really makes heaven proud, and you really make heaven proud, Matthew. And such good things are really happening, and it's a really good thing. And Michael's really happy that his music for years has been impacting heaven, but the combination of my lyrics and his lyrics has just taken heaven to another level. And everyone is seeing what's possible. And to be honest, the talk around the table is mostly about what's happening in heaven, and what's happening in heaven is a result of these interviews. So I encourage you, if you're a listener and you've listened to this point in the video, just next to the heading of this video is a playlist called Mentoring in the Heavenlies. I encourage you to click on that and listen to all of those videos and start to get tutored by heaven. God bless. So if you watch this video and you watched it to the end, please like the video. If you got a comment to make on this video, and I encourage you, Shane or Apostle in Africa or anyone else who's listening, please encourage us with edifying comment. And if this is the first interview you've seen of mine, please subscribe to the channel if you choose. God bless.